Hello, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about episode 8 of series 17 of Taskmaster. And again, this was another fantastic episode of Taskmaster. I really enjoyed this episode. We started off really strongly with the prize task. Again, as I've mentioned in I think every video on series 17 so far, I have been thoroughly impressed by the prize tasks. Like, they were really like the weakest part of the episode a few seasons back, but they have just continued to improve on them, and I think, again, this is another fantastic one. And again, very odd category, being the item that Greg would most want to squeeze, and I'm surprised that nobody went too vulgar with this one. Started off strong with Nick and his thigh, which promised 1 thigh squeeze a month, and I just absolutely loved how surprised and shocked and delighted Greg was at squeezing Nick's thigh. It was obviously just really hard, which is, yeah, you wouldn't expect. And I just thought the whole interaction was hilarious. And I'm not surprised from Greg's initial reaction that he got 5 points, because it did seem like he was genuinely so impressed by it. Steve's banana filler squeezer thing was quite good as well. I have seen this online, I think on like TikTok and things like that. But yeah, essentially you just fill the middle of a banana with a sauce of your choosing. The actual demonstration of it doesn't look appealing, which is why I think it puts people off. And as Steve described, it's like similar to like pig insemination process. So not the most appealing product, so I definitely understand why it didn't get 5 points, although the actual thing isn't that bad. It's just the look of it, the description of it, it doesn't really sell you on it. But I just loved how Steve just kept pushing for it, and I thought overall it wasn't a bad prize, but I think in comparison to the others, everyone else was a bit more impressive or shocking. Speaking of shocking, Joanne's nose was just so odd. I've never seen that before, but yeah, the fact that she has no cartilage in her nose, I could tell she was probably waiting for a prize task to bring this up, and I thought this was the perfect one to do it. I think it is something that is, like you said, a party trick. It's interesting, you never really see it, and it does look weird and shocking, so I thought she did a really good job bringing this in as a prize, and having Greg like actually squeeze her nose was really funny. I like there was a bit more like interaction between the contestants as well, with like John holding her hair back and things like that. We haven't really had too much interactions between all the individual contestants apart from like the team tasks, so it's nice to see a bit of that pop up. John's prize, unfortunately not the strongest. I don't really know where he was going with this. I think the idea is that you like to like squeeze a bag of money, but I just thought the whole thing like bringing in a farthing collection, it just kind of seemed like he wanted to get rid of it. It wasn't that impressive. He didn't sell it at all. And as somebody who's been quite good at the prize tasks and the tasks in general, I thought this was quite weak from John. I love how Sophie immediately thought of boobs. This is not the first time this has happened in this series, but I liked that it wasn't something she was actually able to bring in, and instead resorted to finding something in her dressing room. And I don't think the actual paint was that bad. I thought, you know, it's low effort, definitely low effort, but it is something that people do want to squeeze. So I definitely think she should have got 1 more point than John. If it was me personally, I wouldn't have given them both the same. I'd probably given John 1 and then Sophie 2. Everybody else's I do agree with. I think, yeah, Nick's one definitely deserved to win just by how Greg reacted. You know it was impressive. So the first proper task of the episode was to flick, flap and flip the flan, flapjack and flip-flop, which is definitely a tongue twister. And yeah, I liked this task. I thought this was quite a fun one. I love how long it took for Sophie to realise that it said 15. It was a really funny way to start the task. And for a moment, I did think that maybe they had not put that typo into the task, just the way she was not getting it at all. But sometimes that does happen. Like, you do just read what you think it's going to say. But yeah, just really funny. This task definitely reminds me of the task in series 5, where they had like the Weetabix, the jelly, and there's something else, and they'd put one on the pole. I can't remember all the different things. Throw it into a bucket and eat it was the other one. But yes, it definitely reminiscent of that task. But obviously so different that everyone could be creative with it. But the idea of having 3 actions and 3 things, and you've got to do each thing whichever way you want to do it. Overall, they are quite similar actions, so they didn't have to really think too much about how to differentiate between each one, but I do think everybody did a good job. I think you can look at it and say, yeah, okay, that one's the flick, that one's the flap, whatever. Joanne and John, I think, went for very classic options, but I do think both of them had good ideas. I liked Joanne's putting it on the car and like flicking the car and then the car rolling down. Unfortunately, it didn't go in her favour, but I thought that idea was really, really good there. Doing something, because like a flick to me is like a little action. So I definitely think she worked with that very, very well. Joanne, I think, did a really good job in this task, even though she didn't, like she came like in the middle. I thought hitting the flapjack with the tennis racket was very good. Again, it just didn't go in her favour where it hit the net on the side rather than going straight ahead. And I did love the way that she flipped the flan into Greg's statue's face. I thought it was just very, very funny. John, as well, as I said, went for like classic attempts, like using a catapult to flick it, maybe. I think that was the right one. Using the oars as wings was funny. I liked that. I loved, obviously, Alex's face with the excitement that he had when he was able to gaffer tape John's arms, particularly because John and Alex are friends. I can definitely understand the excitement there from Alex. But yeah, that must have been painful to take off. But yeah, I think John did a very good job, obviously, as he won this task. But I thought everything that he thought of was a good idea. Steve as well, very, very strong. I was a bit surprised at first that he didn't win this task when we like saw all the attempts, but I think just his first one with the flan in the air, like they measured it by height, he didn't really go that far, but it was so impressive. It looked so fun. It is something that you kind of want to do, like jumping on the plank so that it flings it in the air. That was really good. I thought his flick was very good as well. I can't remember what he used, but that was very, very good. And dressing up as the owl was a fun, whimsical way to end his attempt at this task. I thought it was quite good, using, really emphasising this is the flap because I'm a bird, and getting the owl statue, which we saw in the previous season as well, out. And yeah, I thought it was a very, very good attempt, very funny. I liked the variety he had in his like attempts at each one. Obviously, this was contrasted with Sophie's quite poor attempt at this task, where she just didn't really understand what she was supposed to do. She just went for it and just threw the stuff off the table. I'm not sure why she thought that, maybe she just had a brain fart and just didn't really understand what she was supposed to do. But it was really funny, especially contrasted with just the good chaos of Steve's. Like, it was mad, but he was doing very, very good at it. And again, with Sophie, I just don't understand how, making that a first mistake, fair enough, but then continuing it 3 times or 2 more times, she could have perhaps made that initial mistake and been like, right, okay, I understand what I've done wrong, let's do these other 2 properly. But she just didn't. She just decided to get it over with, which is understandable. Maybe she had a long day, but it was very funny, so I'm not too mad about it. And then finally we had Nick, and I get where his brain was at here. I understand the mix-up. Obviously he thought it was furthest away from Alex, or where they originally started up, but I feel like he could have got away with it if he perhaps did it a bit differently. But then perhaps he could have done a slow-mo flip or something with the whole table. That perhaps might have worked, emphasising that the action of the flipping started from where the table was. He could have really emphasised that and perhaps got away with it. But yeah, he just didn't. But I absolutely loved how overconfident Nick was this attempt. Like I said, I get the idea, I get the reasoning. If he had just maybe taken a beat and thought about it a bit more, or reread the task, but even after he reread the task after doing it, he thought he was right. But I feel like he could have gotten away with it if he'd perhaps argued a bit better, or perhaps thought about a cleverer way to do it. But yes, it was very, very funny, and I can't believe Sophie didn't lose this one. It was just incredible. Now, on to the next task, which did involve some more secret tasks. And if you know my channel, you know I love the secret tasks. And this one I thought was quite fun. Again, kind of reminiscent of series 4, where they were doing the team task and they had to all have different things to do. It didn't quite match like that, but it kind of reminded me of that one. With where Joe, Lolly and Noel just went chaos and were just fighting with each other to try and do the task. And again, like I said, very, very different, but that's just what I immediately thought of. And the way everybody had a different one to do. Nick and Sophie's was to say umbrella 5 times. Steve and Joanne was to lie down for 30 seconds, and John, who I think got the easiest one, was just to go into each room and get an item from each room. But this, they got 2 bonus points if they won, and lost 2 bonus points if they didn't complete their secret task. And the actual task that they were competing in was to put the watermelon on the table in the living room. They weren't allowed to re-enter the room if they left it, and the watermelon couldn't touch the stage and they couldn't touch the stage. Overall, quite a simple task. Like, there were definitely room for mistakes, as we see with one attempt at the task. But I thought it was a classic task, and I think the added element of each contestant having to complete this secret task made it so that they perhaps forgot about how to do the actual task. Maybe they kind of got preoccupied with thinking about their secret task. But I did think this was a very, very funny one. I can't decide whether it was more effective to reveal the secret task before seeing an attempt or afterwards. It was quite funny to see Sophie and Nick saying umbrella all the time, but I can't decide whether it would have been funnier to have watched the team of three's attempt and seen Sophie just keep talking about umbrella and Joanne just lying down, whether or not it would have been funnier to watch that not knowing they were doing a secret task or not, because the reveal, it did kind of set us up, you know, we were expecting it, but it was quite fun to see how their brains were thinking about how they might get each one, because, yeah, John, as I said, he had the right attempt by just going, I'll be the one to go out, and he could kind of do what he wanted without the others seeing him, so he definitely had that advantage of, like, he was just quick on his feet, and he thought, right, I need to get out of here, I need to be the one moving about, and I thought, yeah, I thought he did a great job of doing his secret task and also taking the lead on the actual task that they were doing. Joanne lying on the floor, I did think was quite good, the way that she kind of set it up as to be like, oh, we could try this, lie on the floor, and just didn't get up for quite a while. And Sophie's attempt was just, it was just hilarious. The fact that she said it 3 times more than she needed to, and the way that she didn't really try to integrate it into normal conversation at all. She was just shouting umbrella, calling them umbrella. It was just odd, and I'm so surprised that they didn't point it out, but then at the same time I'm not surprised, because she just seems to be in her own world with the team tasks. You know, if we just look at the first team task that they had with the painting on the screens, she was just so clueless as to what was going on. She was in her own world, she just did her own thing, so I'm not surprised that they were just like, we'll just leave Sophie to just chatter about whatever she's doing. But it was very, very fun. I thought that actual attempt at the proper task was very good as well. They worked quite well as a team together, or maybe like just kind of like supporting John, but Joanne had some good ideas as well with getting the net, and I thought those two particularly do work well together. Unfortunately, Steve and Nick did screw themselves over straight away by leaving the room without the task. That I just thought it was so funny how they both immediately left the room without realising that they weren't allowed to go back in, and without taking the task. Nick immediately stepping on the stage after Steve said they weren't supposed to step on the stage. Steve letting the watermelon go onto the stage, even though they weren't supposed to do that. But like, it was a very, very funny attempt, even though, as Greg has branded it, the worst attempt of a task ever. I'm not sure whether I necessarily agree with that, but I understand why Greg said that, because it was just so disastrous from start to finish. I definitely feel both Steve and Nick got distracted by their secret task, and it did definitely mess them up. Nick, though, absolutely amazing with his winking to camera every time he said umbrella. He definitely integrated the umbrellas into this and into his like conversation a lot better. The fact that he carried one around made it like added context to why he was talking about umbrellas. Even just things like, oh, I'll leave this umbrella here, that counted. Trying to use it in the task, I thought, was definitely the best way to go. I loved how Steve integrated his secret task into it. Just lying down in like exasperation made sense. It's not something that you would really question why they're lying down, because you're sitting there thinking about what to do, almost like giving up on the task, like knowing you've messed up. So it all worked very, very well. And I loved Steve's shot with the brick knocking off the watermelon. Just very, very good, even though it did screw them over again. And the next final task of this episode was to make the mannequin alive, like bring the mannequin to life. This task I thought was quite fun. It's vague enough to allow the contestants to do whatever they want, and I think everybody had such a unique approach to this task, which made it very entertaining to watch. I think one of my complaints of a few episodes ago is that they had arty tasks that were perhaps too restrictive and led to the contestants all doing very similar things, whereas this one they all did wildly different things, and it was very, very funny. Each attempt was very, very good as well. I don't think there was a weak task in terms of entertainment, if that makes sense. I think some attempts were definitely weaker than others on this one. Started off with John's, which was dancing with the mannequin. I liked the fact that the mannequin was wearing the same jacket as John. But personally, to me, this one I don't think deserved 3 points, because this one got 3 points. Personally, I would have perhaps given this 2. I thought it was nice. I thought it was simple, but I just thought that I don't really think there was much sense of like the mannequin being alive in his attempt. Like, it was really nice to watch, but yeah, I just don't think it fit the brief as much as others. And I do think Sophie should have got more points. I would have been with the people booing in the audience at Greg, and I love how annoyed that Greg got with this. And unfortunately for Greg, I am going to add on to this. Sophie deserved more points than 2. I thought hers was very, very good. She created a really fun character. I thought, the character had like distinct personalities, it had a background, there was thought into it. She added things like dancing and beatboxing. And it looked really cool as well. I thought the dog head with her really nice jacket was a nice look. And the party hat as well. There was lots of fun things to it. And as I said, it had a background, she came in, this is my age, this is my star sign. I just thought it was a really great character that she had like created obviously very quickly. But yeah, I just thought there was a lot more effort put into it than like John's, for example. And it was just so fun, and I just think it should have got more points. Joanne 100% deserved 1 point in this one. I loved where I thought it was going. I thought we were going to have another Sally Phillips water cooler moment, but then she kind of tricked us, and it's like, oh, it wasn't that. She's leading us on and it's not that. But then I was like, okay, she's resuscitating somebody. Makes sense, bringing it alive, bringing life into somebody. And then she killed the patient, and it's just like, why? It's just the complete opposite of the task. And again, I definitely feel like she could have argued this. You could have gone very philosophical with it and gone with the idea of like, oh, death is what creates life, without death you don't live. She could have played with that, but instead she just gave up and was just like, yeah, I don't know what I did, which is understandable. But like I said, I do think she could have argued it. There's been a definite lack of arguing for points in this season. Next one I did enjoy as well. Again, he created a character, which was this magician, and the trick was actually quite impressive for like a quick little magician trick. To be fair, I do agree with this. I think 3 points in the middle. It's not something wildly creative, but it's not something that's like closer to Joanne's. But I do think this one was really fun. Like I said, the magic trick was quite impressive, and I thought because he had kind of used his arms into the mannequin, it perhaps brought a bit more life than just like the normal like mannequin like with Sophie's. There was a bit less kind of human movements in hers compared to Nick's. Even though I disagreed with Greg's scoring of Sophie's attempt, I definitely agree with him that Steve should win this one. It was so good. I liked the idea of merging man and mannequin. The taking off the skin of the mannequin was weird, and then I thought that the final character that Steve created was odd and like, you get kind of like uncanny valley, like so peculiar, and very much kind of what we see with Steve's stuff that he does. It was so uncomfortable, and it made Alex uncomfortable, and I thought the voice mixed with the appearance of the character, the odd dancing, the kissing of Alex at the end, just so odd. And again, that kind of very creepy, uneasy feeling that you have. I just thought he just created such a tense environment and a very uncomfortable environment with such a odd character. And I thought it was just really, really good. It definitely felt alive, the most alive out of any of them. So the studio task this time was that they had to pick a letter of the alphabet, then Greg would ask them a question, and their answer had to begin with that letter of the alphabet, or it had to work in their letter. And this I thought was quite a fun task. Again, they're going with the elimination round, which is something that they've used a lot this season. I definitely think it works for the studio task. I liked the concept of it, like each person had a different letter. I'm glad they all went with sensible letters this time, no X's or Q's in it. Even though that didn't really come into play, they didn't actually have to use their actual letter at any point, I don't think. But this one really came down to how well you know the alphabet and just how quick he can be. And Nick was particularly impressive with some of his answers, how quick he was able to get them. Fortunately, didn't quite make it to first place, but I thought it was really good. I do feel bad for Sophie. I do think that they perhaps should have given her the one like closest to her idea. Or I don't know if she just put X and put that on the board, whether or not that had counted, because I don't know where they would have gone if she had done that, but perhaps because she didn't have a letter, I thought that they perhaps should have given her Yemen, because the fact that she was quick with it, she worked out what the letter needed to be. It wasn't anything in that letter, so she went with the next best thing. I do think she should have gotten a point for that and not have been eliminated that early on, or perhaps maybe given her a pass and just let everybody go into the next round. I don't know, but I do think it was a bit unfair for her. And this final task results in John winning another episode. He is definitely furthering his lead, and yeah, it's so impressive how well he's doing. I liked how they pointed out how far behind Nick was. It really does put it into perspective, because some of the things he does on the tasks are really, really good, but he's just not really quite at the level of like John and Joanne. But yeah, I cannot wait for the next few episodes. We've only got 2 more to go. I think we know he's going to win, but I would like to see Sophie win an episode. And I just can't wait to see what they're going to do with these final 2 episodes, because I do think this season has been really, really good so far. If you like this video, then please leave a like. It really helps the channel. And comment down below your thoughts on this episode of Taskmaster. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? And subscribe if you want to see more videos to do with Taskmaster. I'll have some more out for you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!